They say your life flashes before your eyes when you die. That's not what happened to me. What I saw was far worse. I saw everyone else's future. My name is Katie Ford. I'm 54 years old and I live in Portland, Oregon, in a modest craftsman house on S.E. Hawthorne Boulevard. I'm a high school librarian, a divorced mother of 2 grown children, and until March 17th of this year, I was just another middle-aged woman trying to make it through the mundane challenges of everyday life. I worried about my cholesterol, my aging mother in Bend, whether my son would ever settle down, whether my daughter's marriage would last. Then my gallbladder decided to rupture. The pain had been building for weeks, a dull ache that I kept dismissing as indigestion. Bad Chinese food, too much coffee, stress. But that Tuesday morning it felt like someone had driven a knife between my ribs and was twisting it. My neighbor Marcus found me collapsed on my front porch, keys still in hand, unable to even call for help. Providence Portland Medical Center. That's where they took me. I remember the fluorescent lights of the ER, the urgent voices, someone cutting away my favorite cardigan, the blue one my daughter gave me last Christmas. I remember thinking, absurdly, that I'd never be able to replace it. The doctors told me it was acute cholecystitis with perforation, that sepsis was setting in, that they needed to get me to the operating room immediately. Dr. Patricia Huang was my surgeon. I remember her kind eyes above her mask as they wheeled me toward the operating room. She squeezed my hand and told me they would take good care of me, that I should count backward from 10, 9, 8, 7. I don't remember 7. What I remember is the absence. A void so complete it wasn't darkness, it was the absence of darkness, the absence of everything. No body, no pain, no Katie Ford, just awareness, hanging in nothing. And then, light. But not the warm, welcoming light you read about in those comforting NDE stories people share in church basements and support groups. This light was piercing, insistent, almost interrogative. It pulled me toward it and I didn't have a choice. I didn't have hands to resist with, no feet to dig in. I was being drawn like iron filings to a magnet. The light broke apart into fragments, into scenes, into windows of time that weren't my time. And a presence, I can't call it a voice because it didn't speak, but it communicated, made me understand. He revealed to me that I needed to see, that I needed to know. I tried to ask why, but I had no mouth, no voice. I didn't want to see. He insisted that I must. The first vision hit me like a physical blow. Even without a body, I felt it. Felt the impact deep in whatever core of consciousness I had become. He showed me cities burning. Not cities in some distant abstract place, American cities. He showed me Seattle's Space Needle silhouetted against an orange sky thick with smoke. He showed me troops, American troops on American streets, and I couldn't understand it at first. Why were soldiers patrolling downtown areas with weapons raised? Why were there barricades and checkpoints in places where there should have been coffee shops and bookstores? The presence let me know without words that this was 2026, that this was what comes in 2026. I wanted to protest, to say that we wouldn't do this to ourselves, that we couldn't. But I was wrong. The visions came faster, overlapping, each one more terrible than the last. He showed me protests that turned into riots, riots that turned into massacres. He showed me neighbor turn against neighbor over things I couldn't quite grasp. Politics, ideologies, identities that had calcified into battle lines. The United States hadn't just divided. It had shattered into factions that saw each other not as fellow citizens but as existential threats. He showed me a family in Phoenix, a mother, a father, 2 small children, huddled in their bathroom while something exploded outside their window. The mother was crying, trying to keep her children quiet, and I wanted to reach out to her to tell her it would be okay. But I knew it wouldn't be. I could feel it. He showed me food shortages, not the empty toilet paper shelves of the pandemic, but real scarcity. Long lines of desperate people, grocery stores with armed guards, a young man in Atlanta being shot over a bag of rice. The mundane horror of it made me want to scream, dying over rice, over bread, over water. The presence showed me more. Other nations, watching, some intervening, some taking advantage. He revealed fragments of conflicts I couldn't fully comprehend, foreign soldiers on American soil, but invited by some faction, opposed by another. The very concept made me dizzy. How had we become so broken? He showed me Chicago in flames. He showed me refugees fleeing Houston. He showed me a 12-year-old girl in Philadelphia standing over her father's body, and the look in her eyes, God, the look in her eyes. It was empty, hollowed out. She had already seen too much, survived too much, and whatever child she had been was gone. I begged him to stop, pleaded that I didn't want to see anymore. But it continued. He needed me to understand the scale. This wasn't a brief conflict. This wasn't something that would be over in weeks or months. He showed me the date, 2026, but I felt the aftermath stretching beyond. Years of instability, millions displaced, families destroyed, a nation that might never recover its former self. You know what the worst part was? The intimacy of it. In my regular life, when I see tragedy on the news, wars overseas, disasters in distant places, there's a buffer. The screen, the distance, the abstract numbers. 15 dead in bombing, hundreds displaced. It's horrible, but it's manageable, digestible. This wasn't like that. I felt their fear. The woman in Phoenix. I felt her heart racing, felt the awful calculations she was making about whether to run or hide, felt her desperate love for her children and her certainty that she couldn't protect them. The young man in Atlanta, I felt his hunger, his desperation, the split-second decision that led to his death. The girl in Philadelphia, I felt her grief, raw and consuming, and then the terrible moment when it went numb because feeling it fully would destroy her. I experienced not just the events but the emotional reality of them. Thousands of individual tragedies, each one a complete devastation of a human life, a human family, and they kept coming. Wave after wave, and I couldn't close my eyes because I didn't have eyes, couldn't look away because there was nowhere else to look. I demanded to know why he was showing me this, what I was supposed to do with this terrible knowledge. He revealed that I must witness, that I must remember, that I must warn. I asked who would listen to a middle-aged librarian from Portland who would believe these things. He told me that was not my concern, that I must tell what I saw. I felt anger then, real burning anger. I protested that he expected me to go back and live with these images in my head, to know what's coming and be powerless to stop it. That this was torture, that this was cruelty. The presence didn't respond to that. He simply showed me more. He showed me good things too, scattered among the horror, acts of incredible courage. People hiding their neighbors, feeding strangers, protecting children who weren't their own. A teenage boy in Denver using his body to shield an elderly woman from a mob. A network of mothers in Dallas secretly moving supplies to areas under siege. A priest in Baltimore opening his church as a sanctuary, knowing it might cost him his life. Humanity at its absolute worst and humanity at its absolute best, existing simultaneously. But the best wasn't enough to stop the worst. That's what broke me. Even the heroes, even the saints, they couldn't prevent the tide of violence and hatred that was coming. I don't know how long I was gone. In that place, time didn't work the same way. It could have been seconds or hours or years. But eventually the presence released me. The vision stopped. I felt myself being pulled backward, away from the light, away from those terrible windows into 2026. I wanted to resist. If I had to know these things, shouldn't I at least see everything? Understand it completely? He revealed to me that I had seen enough, that more would break me. And then the pain hit. My body. Oh God, my body. I slammed back into it like a car crash, every nerve ending on fire. Beeping machines, bright lights, real lights, surgical lights, voices shouting, hands on me. Someone called out that I was back, that they had a pulse. Someone asked if I could hear them calling my name over and over. I tried to speak but couldn't. My throat was full of tubes. I tried to move but couldn't. I was strapped down, cut open, being held in the world by machines and medicines and the desperate efforts of Dr. Huang and her team. I wanted to scream. I wanted to tell them what I'd seen. I wanted to warn them, warn everyone that they had less than 2 years. Less than 2 years before everything fell apart. But all I could do was lie there, tears streaming from my eyes while they stitched me back together. That was 6 weeks ago. I survived the surgery, the sepsis, the complications. I spent 12 days in the ICU, another week in recovery. My daughter flew in from Sacramento and barely left my side. My son drove up from Eugene. My mother called every day, her voice thin with worry. They all think I'm recovering well. Physically, I am. The incision is healing, my strength is returning. I can walk around the block now without getting winded. Dr. Huang says I'm a miracle. By all rights, I should have died on that table. My heart stopped for almost 4 minutes. 4 minutes. That's how long I was gone. 4 minutes to see the end of everything. I tried to tell them at first. My daughter, while she helped me to the bathroom, I started to tell her that something happened when I was under, that I saw something. She shushed me gently, told me I'd had a traumatic experience, that my brain was oxygen deprived, that it was normal to have strange dreams or hallucinations. I tried to tell my son. I told him I needed him to listen, that something about 2026 was important. He told me I needed to focus on getting better, not to worry about the future right now. I tried to tell Dr. Huang during a follow-up appointment. She listened politely, kindly, then gently suggested I might benefit from speaking with a therapist. She explained that trauma can affect us in unexpected ways, that what I went through was extremely serious, that it was natural for my mind to process it in unusual ways. So I stopped telling people, because I realized something. Even if I could find the words to fully describe what I saw, even if I could somehow make them understand the visceral reality of it, they couldn't believe it. Because who wants to believe that? Who wants to know that everything they love, everything they've built, everything they assume will always be there? Who wants to know it's all about to collapse? Now I go to my therapy appointments and nod and say, yes, I'm processing the trauma. Yes, I understand the mind does strange things under stress. Yes, I'm working on letting go of the disturbing dreams. Sometimes I think about not going back. When I was in that void before the visions, there was peace. No body, no pain, no terrible knowledge, just silence. I could have stayed there, should have stayed there. But the presence sent me back. He told me to witness, to remember, to warn, so here I am witnessing, remembering, trying to warn even though no one will listen. I'm writing this down because I have to, because even if no one believes me now, maybe afterward. After it happens, someone will find this and understand that we had warning. That someone saw. That the universe or God or whatever that presence was tried to tell us. I'm writing this for Carmen and Terrence and Michaela and all the others whose faces I see every night. I'm writing this as testimony, as prophecy, as prayer. I'm writing this because in 6 weeks I'll be 55 years old, and I'll celebrate with my children and my mother, and we'll have cake, and they'll give me gifts, and it will be lovely and normal and precious. And I'll smile and blow out the candles and make a wish that I know won't come true, because I've seen 2026. I've seen what's coming, and all I can do is bear witness and remember, and try to love the people around me as fiercely as I can while we still have time. That's all any of us can do. Testimony recorded by Katie Ford, Portland, Oregon. If you're reading this after it happens, if any of what I saw comes true, please know that I tried. I tried to warn people, I tried to stop it. And I'm sorry. I'm so deeply sorry that I failed.